Hello, everyone. Welcome. I see a couple of familiar names here. Hi, Nikki. We're going to give people a minute to go ahead and join. Happy Halloween. I wish I could see you all so I could see if you were wearing costumes. Okay, we've got people trickling in. This is great. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. We're going to go ahead and get started in just a minute here. Okay, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Everyone in? Good. Okay. So thank you all for joining us today. Happy Halloween. Today we are going to be talking about mastering the holidays. Our panelists are going to be providing real-world examples as well as proven tactics on how to make this season your most successful and profitable one yet. So whether you're a longstanding partner or you're new to the Talk family, we're really delighted to have you here. So thank you. For those of you who aren't familiar with Talk, we are a restaurant reservations platform that also doubles as the ultimate sales engine for your hospitality business. Our platform is essentially built to elevate your brand while also driving significant revenue. Some things that set us apart from our competitors: we have flat rate subscription pricing, we have zero per cover fees, and we also boast the industry's lowest no-shows. So now let's just talk logistics. If you have any questions during the webinar, please go ahead and use the Q&A feature, which you'll find at the bottom of your Zoom screen. And our team will either answer your queries in the chat or we'll talk about them directly in the end. I'm your host for today. My name is Sabrina Medora. Prior to joining Talk, I was actually a food writer for publications like Food and Wine, Plate Magazine, Wine Enthusiast, and I also ran a marketing company specifically for restaurants. Today, I'm joined by an incredible panel of fellow Talk employees, all of whom have very impressive creds in the hospitality industry. So I'd love to introduce Melissa Maciejewski. She is the Senior Account Manager and has spent over a decade working front of house and managing reservations for restaurants. We have Ilan Pamitesa. She is a hospitality manager here at Talk. She is also a former longtime front of house industry vet. And last but not least, we have Sophie Brochu, who is a senior copywriter here with Talk. She is also the co-owner of Brochu's Family Tradition, which is a casual dining restaurant in Savannah, Georgia. And casually, it just got listed by New York Times and Bon Appetit for Best New Restaurant. Congrats, Sophie.
Thank you.
All right. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and dive right in. So today we're talking about all of the struggles that restaurants typically face during the holiday season. We all know that there are many. But let's start at the very beginning with the planning process. So something that we've noticed over the years is the holidays seem to be the perfect timing for restaurants to experiment with offerings they typically wouldn't do during the year. They also experiment with different, dining room layouts and such. So let's talk a little bit about why the holidays are such a great time to take a risk as opposed to sticking to what you know. Melissa, why don't you take this one?
Yeah, absolutely. So I do think I want to acknowledge what you said. The holidays can be a stressful time, and I think everyone feels that in the industry. But on the other hand, I also think that everyone really wants to make it successful, right? The staff is excited that maybe you're doing something a little bit different than your everyday offerings. Your guests want to have a great time. They're also potentially willing to spend a little bit more money surrounding the holiday season. So it really is just, I think, such a cool opportunity for businesses to maybe try something new that they haven't done before. Whether that's, like you said, changing up your floor plan or, doing a whole to-go program.
Elon, what do you think as a hospitality manager? Oh, Elon, I think you're muted. It
I
happens.
I completely echo what Melissa said. It's a great time to kind of bring that feeling of specialness. So guests want to feel indulgent. That's kind of the perspective that is kind of the expectation around the holidays. They want to feel special. So I think I completely agree with Melissa that this is the perfect time to add those little touches, whether it's something small or it is something where you're offering a completely different Christmas menu or you're offering wine pairings or different packages. I think it's a great time to kind of try something new.
We get so many guests reaching out and asking what we are offering for the holidays, if we're going to have special hours, special menus, any special experiences. People are looking to book special things. And a lot of people are looking for larger parties or they're having family in town. So really getting ahead of that and figuring out what you're going to do is important.
Yeah. Sophie, as someone that is now operating a new restaurant during the holiday season, this is your first year. What are some of the ways that you have approached tackling what you choose to offer for the holiday season?
Yeah, so we opened in December of last year. So because we opened, right in time for the holidays, we really did not get to experiment with special offerings. We were just trying to operate. But this year we are doing a prepaid New Year's Eve experience. We were open for New Year's Eve last year, and we really took a hit with no shows and last minute cancellations. At the same time, we knew deposits could be really useful or prepaid experiences, but we didn't feel like we had been open long enough to really gain the trust of the market. People didn't really know who we were at that point. We had been open for 2 weeks. So this year, now people know us. We've had some great recent press. We've got a lot of regular diners and repeat guests. So this year, we're going to do a full prepaid New Year's Eve experience. And it's not fancy, but it is special. We're a really casual restaurant. We've got a big patio, a full bar. So we're still going to be, do something that's in brand, in line with what we do, but something a little bit special with some unique ingredients and just something a little different.
Yeah, there's actually a lot you said in there that I want to unpack. So first of all, let's talk about deposits, prepayments, and how they help the restaurant. If a restaurant has never implemented deposits or prepayments in the past, is it easy to do that for the holidays, and why should they?
Yeah, I can jump in here. I think, of course, preparation is super important. So if you have never done deposits or prepayment before, please reach out to our team here at Talk. We'd be happy to walk you through kind of what that looks like, because again, everyone knows what it's like closing down the restaurant at the end of the night when, it's Christmas Eve and you want to get home to your families. Trying to figure out how to reconcile deposits in your POS is the last thing that you want to do. So I think making sure that you're 100% confident is really important. That being said, that prep work is so worth it for these holiday experiences, because as we've talked about, it's a great time to experiment with different offerings, but that means maybe you're bringing in ingredients that you've never, offered at your restaurant before, perhaps luxury ingredients that are really expensive. I also think it's really important to be respectful of your staff's time during the holidays, because again, they're probably spending time with you at the restaurant rather than at home with their holidays. So no shows are so impactful, not just from like a bottom line revenue business perspective, but it really affects kind of every aspect of the restaurant. And you want to make sure, if you put in all of this time and effort to crafting a beautiful holiday experience, that, the people who said they would join you will in fact be there with you.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then in terms of incorporating those new touches, what would be the recommendation between putting together a brand new experience, something that's never been offered before at the restaurant with lots of luxury items, versus taking something that already exists, putting a tweak on it, and perhaps doing a little bit of upselling? What do you find has worked better for customers in the past?
I think it, oh.
Hold on, you go.
Yeah, I mean, I think either option has its benefits. I think when you're speaking of maybe taking something that you offer already and tweaking it to upsell to make it a little bit more special, I've definitely seen that work really well. I worked with a restaurant that, you know, it's kind of becoming more popular for restaurants to have little retail sections in their spaces. And so I did work with a restaurant who took some of those retail items that they already had, and then they went ahead and kind of repackaged that as a Christmas package that they could offer in addition to their regular experience offering. So when their guests were going through and booking for their experience, they could choose to add a little Christmas package that they could gift to someone in their life.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I will echo that. I've worked with a lot of customers that have just like dipped their toes in the water with retail packaging or even just wine. Like if for Thanksgiving in particular, if they're thinking about maybe moving through some of their bottle inventory, throwing up a package on talk for to go is a great way to gauge interest. And then oftentimes I think, you know, if that goes really well, again, your team is excited and you can think about going bigger either for the next holiday or for the next season.
That's such a good idea. We had so many people reach out about gift cards last year, and it's something that had completely slipped our minds. So we kind of scrambled to get some digital cards live. This year, we went ahead and pre-ordered physical cards because I know that's really important for some people to be able to actually give something for the holiday season. But we also love merch, and we have t-shirts and hats that have been in high demand. So we are stocking up on those items to have for the holiday season.
Sophie, you need to save a t-shirt for me and all of us.
I will.
I love the idea of, you know, putting up a to-go package. What would you say to customers that worry that putting in any kind of to-go packaging during the holidays is just extra work on the team?
I would say that, you know, while of course by nature there's going to be a little bit of that extra work involved, I think with the way that you can plot it out in the system, the way you can set your inventory and keep things really organized, it doesn't have to be too much of an extra stressor on your team.
I think also it's okay to do things in small quantities. You know, if things run out, great. It's exciting to sell out, and it makes it feel like there is a demand and a bit of exclusivity to it. You know, not every single person has to get it that year. Maybe they remember it for next year and they get in early and they're looking for it and they're excited about it.
Yeah. And maybe even like marketing it as limited quantity.
Yeah, and I think that goes not just for merch, but for experiences too. I know that's a great way to sort of create a family tradition or whatever. I've worked at a few restaurants that have done very exclusive holiday experiences, and there are only 20 seats or whatever, and it just creates so much buzz. It's a great marketing opportunity.
Yeah, and honestly, just a great way to diversify the revenue stream for the holidays, especially if you do something low impact like putting together a wine package. Let's talk a little bit about upselling. So let's say, Sophie, for example, you've got your New Year's Eve menu. Does your team plan on doing any kind of upselling with these special ingredients, or is that something that's already looped into the menu?
Yeah, we'll do some upselling. We're gonna have like champagne and caviar specials. We're a fried chicken and seafood restaurant, so this is just like a very obvious go-to. Like people want those bits of like luxury and celebration. So that's kind of how we like to do the new year. So we will be taking, an idea that's very familiar that our guests already know. Something that we implemented a few months back was Sour Hour at our bar as a play on happy hour. And it really took off. And it did have this bit of exclusivity to it because it was only available at the bar, and it was a limited menu. And because it has been so popular, we've decided to take our New Year's Eve offering, and it's going to somehow tie into Sour Hour, like a Sour Hour presents New Year's Eve at Bro Shoes. So it's really taking something familiar that our guests already know and just making it a little bit more fun and a little bit more celebratory.
I think that's great. And that touches on, again, a really important point, which is you can drive revenue from every corner of your restaurant. You don't have to limit experiences just to what's happening at the table. Melissa, what are some other ways that restaurants are utilizing every space in their dining room without necessarily changing too much?
Yeah. Well, the first thing that I'll add on to that is not only should you be sort of utilizing all of your space, but I think don't limit yourself to upselling just on Thanksgiving Day or Christmas Eve or Christmas Day or whatever you celebrate. One of the things that my team was kind of surprised by when we were reviewing performance from last year's holiday season is that the businesses that did the most both traffic and revenue on Talk were offering ongoing experiences through the end of November all the way through the first week of January. So I think especially with those small upsells, offer them for the entire season, because even if you're not celebrating with your family, maybe you're doing a Friendsgiving or you're even doing like an office happy hour or whatever it is. Again, people are primed to celebrate and spend money. So definitely think big during the season because guests are ready for it.
That's great. And then in terms of setting yourself up in the dining room, what are some great like best practices for offering different experiences at the bar, on the patio, inside?
Yeah, so we actually just released a new feature that allows you to segment the seating areas in your dining room. So if you are a current Talk user and you have not turn that on, again, please feel free to reach out to our team. I think it just makes the checkout flow for your guests really seamless and smooth. And then, I think, again, because people want to celebrate, think about not just maybe if you're a restaurant, the meal itself, but sometimes people want to do drinks one place, dinner someplace, and dessert and after dinner drinks elsewhere. So again, I've worked with a few businesses that have had quite a bit of success doing like a little 3-bite dessert and digestif experience. So talk to your team, figure out what they're excited about, think about what you're excited about, and feel free to get creative with it.
That's actually really fun. Imagine if restaurants in a particular area did like a progressive holiday experience where one place that's celebrated for their bar does, the welcome cocktail with the amuse-bouche, and then we've got first course here and dessert there. I think that would be so fun.
Yeah,
Such a
that's the way I love to eat. So I hope other people are doing it too.
Yeah, I think that's great, especially for restaurant groups that have their locations close to one another. Like I know several places in the San Diego area have, everything within walking distance. I think that's so great. It's like a bar crawl, but 20 times better, in my opinion.
I do love that idea. And if you can't do that, you can always set something up like that in your space. I've seen businesses on Talk do, like I think Sabrina was just saying, you can do first bites at the bar, move to the lounge. Maybe there's a counter or kitchen table. So it can be more of a journey throughout the space.
Yeah. And other cool experiences would be something along the lines of maybe you don't even necessarily have to do anything different menu wise, but perhaps you can have like a table in the kitchen, or like a hearthside table. And it's just like, maybe it's just an element of environment and ambiance, maybe an extra glass of champagne here or there. I think that would be really fun too. People are always looking for those types of experiences, and I feel like I'm looking for those year round, but the holidays are when I'm like, oh, it's the holidays, I'm just gonna throw all my money at it.
Yep.
Who am I kidding? Throw all my money at food anyways.
Definitely. And to speak to like the ambiance aspect of the piece, I know, for example, some of our wineries on the platform have like igloos or greenhouses that they utilize. And during the holidays, they really deck those out and make them super festive. And guests are really excited to participate and kind of feel that holiday atmosphere.
Yeah, the igloos in particular are really fun. That's great. Speaking of experiences in the dining room, let's talk about restaurants that typically don't seat larger parties. How do you, I mean, Sophie, you mentioned that you're getting a lot of large party inquiries here. How do restaurants navigate that? Is that something they should prepare for? Is there something where they say, look, sorry, we just don't accommodate? How does that work?
That's a really good question. Our space is not set up for large parties. We don't have a private dining room. The largest reservation that we accommodate right now is an 8-top, and that's for our kitchen table, which we call the chamomile room. Large parties are tough. They can kind of make or break. You sometimes get a large party that takes up a lot of real estate in the restaurant, but they're not necessarily ordering that much. So if you are going to do them, and we have done a couple in our dining room, it's really about setting the expectations, having a set menu and a budget. And so that it's going to work out in your favor.
And that set menu is really useful, again, from a hospitality perspective as well. And I think you can explain that to guests, that it's not that, we only care about the minimum amount that you're going to spend, but it's, again, when you're there with a large group of friends or family, spending 20 minutes ordering or having people look at the menu is really distracting. And so as a business, you can just explain that you're providing great hospitality. And when you take care of selecting the dishes and even just making sure that everything is portioned correctly for a large party, it just makes the dinner go so much more smoothly. So I've actually seen some businesses do large parties with dishes as add-on or menu items on top. That way people can take as much time as they like to fill out those selections, and it's all ready to go before the reservation is even confirmed.
And I think a lot of times when you have a large social gathering like that, people don't necessarily want to be thinking that hard about what they're going to be eating and drinking and making decisions. It's really nice if those decisions are just made for them. So we have a party we're doing in November, and we've got a set menu of all family style items. And then we have pre-selected wines and a list of some limited cocktails that people can order a la carte.
That's great. Is there also a capability, or perhaps is it easier for, the hospitality experience? Is it better, I should say, for the hospitality experience if you give people the option of a couple of mains and then you take care of the sides, the desserts, the appetizers, and that way they still have that little freedom of choice, but you still have a very, structured thing going on in the background?
Yeah, I think that's the way to approach it, as long as you're aware of any allergies and restrictions, because you don't want those to come up, at the last minute. So being prepared from that perspective and knowing if you're going to have to do any modifications.
Right. That makes total sense. What are some really successful experiences that some top customers have put on in the recent past for the holidays? Putting you all on the spot here.
I would say holiday teas always do incredibly well. so much so that I had never done any sort of holiday tea, and I helped set so many up last year that I took my mom, and we had a great time. I was like, oh, I get it now. This is incredible. But yeah, I mean, I think that that's kind of the quintessential example. You can do it multiple times a day, every day in the month of December. It's something a little bit different than, you know, traditional lunch or dinner service. Your pastry team can have a lot of fun with it. You can do alcohol, you can not do alcohol, just a really kind of flexible and fun experience for businesses. Again, lots of to-go packages. I worked with a larger business group that structured their to-go packages in an interesting way. Rather than doing individual items from all of their different brands, they had one sort of group branded to-go package. So you got the greatest hits from all of the restaurants that are kind of well known here in Chicago. So I thought that was a fantastic way both to offer a package with lots of variety, but also introduce guests to all of your restaurants at once. So just genius idea, both from, you know, providing a great experience, but also thinking about how to drive revenue past the month of December.
Yeah, that actually reminds me. I think I remember one December there was just a restaurant group did that with just pastries and cookies. That was so fun. That was like a fun gift to give too, you know, for anyone that has a sweet tooth. That's so great.
You can also think about not just the holiday, but the days surrounding. We see a lot of Feast of the Seven Fishes on Talk. And then we'll see, I really love the idea of like next day for Thanksgiving. Sometimes we'll see next day sandwich fixings. So like whether it's added bread or whatever, or like some next day pastries for the morning. And I think that's a really nice touch and something that you can just upsell using Talk, and people can add it if they want to add it.
Seen a couple of recovery brunches on New Year's Day, also genius.
These are all such great ideas, and hopefully our guests are getting lots of fodder for inspiration. But I want to talk a little bit about strategic tactics, because we know that the holidays can be a mess and we want to make sure that we're making things as easy as possible. So from a strategic perspective, do we have any advice for restaurants that perhaps have not yet figured out their exact holiday offerings, Ilan?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think one thing to kind of keep in mind is that it's not too late yet. You definitely still have time to kind of come together and figure out those offerings that you want to create. And then I would just say that once you do kind of have a handle on what you want to offer, just to kind of get on the logistics of creating those as soon as you can, so that you can kind of gauge your interest and then make any adjustments from there.
And
you can always get,
go ahead, Sophie.
You can always get something live on Talk and start selling it and trying to gauge interest before you actually go out there and do it. So if something is selling, you've got time to get ready. And if it's not, maybe you change the game plan.
Right. My gosh, I had a thought and then it flew out of my head.
Sorry.
love when that happens on a recorded webinar. I think it was yes. So for restaurants that have been on Talk for, a few months now, how can they use some of the guest data that Talk collects to help plan what experiences might resonate best? So kind of like knowing in advance whether or not something is going to sell. Ilan, you look like you have an answer.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's definitely a variety of reports that can be used. You can go through your guest visit counts. You can go through, you can even look down to the granular to the experience to see how many people visit, how many people have booked that experience. You can kind of even look into your guest details themselves to see the kind of guests that are dining with you, what might appeal to them most. So I think you can definitely use a lot of the data and information information within the platform to kind of tailor your experiences to your holiday guests.
Yeah, and this maybe doesn't apply if it's the first year that you're offering something, but to circle back to that exclusivity point that we were talking about, I think it's such a nice touch to reach out to those who dined with you last year first, so they get first chance at booking any of these special experiences. And you can do that via a private link, or you can, contact them directly, whatever makes more sense for your communication style. But it's just so, guests always want to feel special no matter what it is. So that's really easy to do with Talk.
That's a good point. Sophie, have you used any kind of guest data at Brochures recently?
So this is not terribly sophisticated, but we will look back at certain months to gauge how busy we were. And it's just really easy to see in the dashboard, how many guests were coming in on April 14th, for example, or specific holidays. Just looking back, we also, we use guest notes, we use tags. We know how many, if somebody no shows, it's marked in Talk. And we'll flag this, if we get a lot of last minute, we find that that people will do this. If they do it once, they might do it again. And so we'll flag this, and we might reach out to them to remind them of their reservation. It's a little bit tricky, but I think it's helpful knowing who's actually going to show up.
Yeah, and I mean, it does have that added level of hospitality when you really think about it, because it shows that personalized outreach, that effort, that attention to detail even.
Yeah, at least for our repeat guests, when we have notes on them and, we know their name and what they like and where they like to sit, that's great, because we can make all those things happen for them and make it a extremely hospitable experience. On the other end of that, if we have people that are continuing to last minute cancel, maybe we'll just, drag their reservation off to the patio.
We would never.
Just extra confirmation calls, personal, very personalized confirmation calls.
Yes. We've talked a lot about the guest experience. I really want to spend some time focusing on the staff experience. We all know from personal experience that holidays can be really stressful. And this is the industry where, a lot of people are giving up their own family time, their own celebrations to help make it special for everybody else. So what are a couple of ways that we have seen our customers manage staff morale, for example, during the holidays?
I think this has actually come up a few different times in webinars of different topics. So I'll just continue that thread. I love the idea of talking to your staff and giving them the opportunity to do something they're excited about, whether that is, your bartenders doing a special experience at the bar, or your wine team putting, bottles of wine from a certain region on display, or even little things like decorating the restaurant, or if there's someone who's interested in social media, like letting them, whatever it is. I think the holidays are stressful, but it's also a really fun time to work in a restaurant, because everyone's a little bit excited, probably making pretty good money. You're with your chosen family. So as long as you can keep that good morale ball rolling, you're in a good spot. And yeah, keeping your staff engaged is the first way to do that, in my opinion.
Definitely. And I think just like providing that empathy and that understanding and having those conversations that, like, yes, these are stressful times, things may go wrong. If they do, we're here for you. Just kind of letting your team know that you are there to provide them support, I think is just really important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and those are, I think, important conversations for, pre-shifts, when all of your team is together, because the holidays can be stressful and just a time where, with like mental health, people get overwhelmed. So just making it clear that, you'll get through the season together and you're here together and we'll make it as smooth as possible. I also think it's worth noting that, as we're talking about all the different creative offerings we can do over the holidays, it can also be a strategy to figure out which days to close. And then you can go hard on the holidays that you choose to really go for. So for us, we're already closed on Mondays and Tuesdays. And so we're going this year, we're closed for Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. I think we've turned it into like a 4-day vacation for our team. So making sure that they also do have some time to spend with their family.
Right. Definitely to help prevent burnout for sure.
Yeah,
And then, oh, go ahead, Melissa.
I was just going to say real quick too, similarly, like what things are worth your effort and what things aren't. I worked in a place where we did a live band for New Year's Eve one time, and we were so excited about it. It was the first time that we had done it. We were like, this is going to be so, change the energy in the room and it's going to be great. And afterwards we were like, nope, no one could hear anything. It was expensive for the restaurant. Guests didn't like, no one danced. So we were like, okay, never again. This year it wasn't worth our time, resources, and energy. So being flexible too, we've talked about experimentation a lot, but that also involves saying like, no, we don't need to be open 7 days a week, or we don't need to have a live band.
Yeah, you don't have to be everything to everyone, right? You can really choose what you're good at and focus in there, and not try to do every single thing with every single holiday.
Yeah, I mean, brochures is actually the perfect example because you guys are doing New Year's Eve, but you're not offering anything for Christmas. And it takes an amount of confidence and restraint to be able to say, no, we're not going to do that. And that's okay too.
Yeah, sometimes no is the answer, and it can be hard to say no, but ultimately we've got a pretty small team and we're a family restaurant, and we are doing everything we can to do to drive revenue throughout the entire year. So we're not relying on holidays as, a way to keep our bottom line up through the end of the year.
Yeah, that's really smart. And then in terms of managing staff and being flexible, with the influx of guests and orders and things like that, there's also sometimes the influx of certain maybe like stubborn customers, perhaps some problematic situations that arise. How are some of our customers managing, or I'm sorry, let me rephrase. How are some of our customers empowering their managers to take control of those situations in a safe and smart manner? Or how would we advise them to do that? Let's put it that way.
One thing I recommend is the post-visit survey. If there is a way for guests to, if they don't do it there in the restaurant or at the business, if they are prompted to give feedback, it's a great way to get private feedback. Because the last thing you want is somebody running to the internet to let everybody know about if they had a poor experience. We always like to handle those in person, but that's not going to be the case all the time. So prompting guests with post-visit survey, I think, is a really great idea.
Great. We do have some questions coming in from the audience, which is great. If you are in the audience and you do have a question, remember that you can just use the Q&A button below on your Zoom window. But in the meantime, I'm just going to get to a couple of these. So one question, great question. Someone asked, what is the difference between an event and an experience? Alon, can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, definitely. So the main differences are kind of some of the verbiage around experiences and events. Events have a ticket verbiage. They are kind of conceptualized to be typically general admission and not kind of assigned to those tables. So those bookings, aren't going to be specifically assigned to tables that come in. They do also have their own kind of separate page that guests can land on when they're navigating to them. And then your experiences are going to be more of a, they can of course be special or unique, but they're going to be more of a reservation experience. When they're coming in to your reservation platform, they're going to be coming in assigned to tables, and they're going to have more of that reservation language surrounding them. So those are kind of the main differences.
Got it. Can you give an example of the difference between like a one-off event and then holiday experiences?
Yeah, of course. So, you might choose to set up your New Year's Eve as a one-off event. Maybe it's going to be more of a cocktail hour where everyone's just kind of wandering, mingling with each other. And then you may choose to set up your kind of ongoing holiday experience as an experience itself. Generally, you do have the ability to set up events with multiple dates to them, but generally anything that's running for a long period of time, very frequently throughout the week is going to be a best fit for an experience versus an event.
Got it. Sophie, is the New Year's Eve set up as an event or an experience for Bro Shoes?
Oh, I think that's going to be an event. Good question. But I would say, for casual businesses, don't be afraid of experiences. You can create a special day and talk. It doesn't have to be like a fine dining experience. It can really be something fun and something that engages your guests in a new way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great tip for sure. On that note, someone asked, what if we list an experience or a package on Talk and it doesn't sell? Sophie, I think you mentioned something about this earlier, right?
So I think you either reach out to anybody that did sign up for it and you say, you know what, this might be something we do next year instead. And I think people will understand. It's okay to fail in that regard. If something doesn't sell, don't do it. If you have to pivot and see what's working. And that's what's really nice about Talk is you can kind of gauge demand ahead of time, because the last thing you want to do is just open the doors and then have nobody show up.
Yeah, definitely. Someone asked about, so of course, pricing during the holidays, things tend to get bumped up. How do we adjust pricing without alienating regular customers?
I think that's where actually you should lean into using the experience language. If you are providing extra value, whether that's, slightly different ingredients or, an elevated experience or whatever it is, create even if it's just your regular service, you can create a new experience, apply that new pricing, add an experience image, really judge it up from the guest perspective. And that, that allows you to change the price without really changing the price of your everyday reservations.
That makes sense. Actually, I think it would be really helpful too to highlight pricing tiers for certain experiences. Can one of you speak to that a bit more?
Yeah, there's definitely a way to, create those different pricing tiers within an experience, kind of in a way that you would create ticket tiers. It takes a little bit more, it's a little bit more of a manual kind of keeping an eye on those tiers when you do create those, especially if you are creating them within an experience. But there is a way in which you can do that, through menus and items, basically creating as your guests are going through the booking flow, they can then select which pricing tier they would like to kind of purchase.
So it could be something as simple as adult versus child.
Exactly. Yeah.
Alcohol versus non-alcoholic.
Yes.
So how do we differentiate that from an add-on, essentially?
They are very similar. They work in very much the same way. It's going to show in the same way in that flow. It's going to be like part of that checkout flow as the guest is going through.
Right. So it's, in the holidays, if people are going to be setting up add-ons anyway, then doing tiers almost makes more sense from that perspective.
Exactly.
It's like dynamic pricing. We have another question. How does Talk help to market holiday packages and offerings? Whoops. I'm here. How does Talk help to package and market holiday offerings? Melissa?
Yeah, so we get excited about the holidays here at Talk too. So we've got a couple different avenues to highlight the cool stuff that you're doing. We have collections pages on exploretalk.com. So the first thing that's super important is when you're creating an experience, there are a couple different tags that you can use, campaign tags. Once you select the holiday that this experience is attached to, then those experiences will automatically pull into kind of the internal or the external marketing that we do on exploretalk.com. We also do lots of holiday roundup emails to our guest database. Some of those go to the entire Talk guest database. Some of them are segmented by cities. So if you have a particular experience that you would like to highlight, again, feel free to reach out to our team. We love high resolution images, ideally without any text, but again, whatever looks festive and fun, we can work with. And then last but not least, we do like to do kind of more in-depth features of really cool experiences that people are doing, either as they're setting them up or after the fact. If you did something cool that was really successful, our marketing team would love to chat with you. So I think, again, we're all really excited by the idea of businesses thinking creatively about the holiday season, using their spaces in different ways, whatever it is. If you feel like you've done something cool, feel free to let us know, and we can promote it on our end as well.
Mm-hmm. As a fellow member of the marketing team, I love a good case study. So come at me with your best experiences.
This isn't Talk marketing, but something that I recommend doing for businesses. We'll have concierges from hotels reaching out, asking about holiday offerings and holiday hours. So having all of that information prepared, ready to go, send it out to the hotels in your area so that they can recommend to your guests.
Yeah, that's a great idea, actually. I just got back from vacation, and the hotel that we were staying at, they had this deal with a couple of restaurant groups in the area where if you showed your hotel key, you would get a special little add-on. So at one place, it was a welcome glass of champagne. At another place, it was buy one, get one wine tasting, which is like an insanely good deal. And I just thought that made so much sense. And it's such a good like win-win for both partners involved. And I will honestly say we would not have gone to half the places we would have attended if we hadn't had those incentives. So especially when it comes to the holidays and people are perhaps like willing to spend more, willing to try new things, I think that's such a great way to build that community, test out new offerings, and also market yourself.
Yeah, something else that I think is fun to do, especially around the holiday season, is you can in the dashboard hold a couple special tables for last minute requests, or maybe somebody's in town looking for that last reservation, and it can feel really special to give that away to somebody that really, really wants it.
I feel like that would be so good for Valentine's Day. Oh crap, I forgot. Please, please, please let me in. Yes, you can have the special table. Well, thank you all for your questions. These are incredible. And I want to especially thank Sophie and Melissa and Alon for participating and sharing all these wisdom bombs. I learned that new phrase today, and I thought that was cute. But no, we really appreciate it. A special announcement while I have everyone's attention, we are hosting one last webinar of the year. It is going to be happening on November 15th, and we are specifically going to be talking about how to reduce food waste during the holidays so that you can optimize your bottom line. We know that food waste is not just a trending topic in the industry, but an incredibly necessary one. It's, sustainability for the planet, but also a way to avoid those razor thin margins. So if you are interested in attending, we will be sending out information within the week. So keep an eye out for that. In the meantime, we're so grateful to all of you for participating and attending. We will follow up via email to any questions that we didn't get to. Feel free to email us if you think of a question after you leave the webinar. That's perfectly okay. That's what we're here for. And if you are a customer at Talk and want to activate experiences, or maybe just strategically plan out how to make the holidays more manageable from a logistic perspective, or even from a marketing perspective, please feel free to reach out to anyone at the company. Thank you all for sharing your valuable insights and experience. And if you're not on Talk's platform, but you do want to learn more about pricing and offerings, please go ahead and visit exploretalk.com/join. Thank you, everyone. Have a great Halloween. Bye.
Bye.